Hey everyone, in this video we're going to build a dragon fruit support. It's going to be the exact same design as this one. So this has been in place roughly a year and a half, I'd say. And what it is, it's a 6x6 post, and then it's got a the support part of it. It actually snaps into the top, and it's working out well. The only thing to be aware of is I used pressure treated lumber, and I found out later on that dragon fruit will not root to the pressure treat. So you can see there's a lot of roots there. They actually haven't bound to the wood. Some people wrap these with burlap, and I guess you could also put like a veneer of untreated wood. But unfortunately for direct ground burial here, I don't have a choice. I have to use the pressure treat. So that's the only thing to consider in your area if you can get away with another material. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, here's the lumber that we need. What I have is a 6x6 8-foot long post, so that's going to be the upright. I have two 8-foot long 2x4s. I'm going to end up cutting those in half and putting a 45-degree angle at the ends. And this is actually, it's a 2x6. It's a 10-foot piece, and I had them cut it in half at the lumber store. That just made it easier to bring home, and that's actually the dimensions that I need. I'll just go ahead and trim them up a little, make sure they're exactly the same length. I think they're like maybe a 1/4 inch off right now. It's pretty much the best you can expect guys at the lumber store to do. Really, this whole project is mostly just cutting wood. The assembly itself was real easy. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to notch the end of the 6x6 post, and that's going to be the receiving end for, I guess we call it the umbrella, that I'll build with the other pieces. I'm going to go ahead and mark that post, and then I'll come back and cut it up. All right, since this board is 5.5 inches wide, the 2x6 that's coming in here is 1.5 inches, so that leaves us 4 inches. So what I'll do is I'll just measure 2 inches from each end here, 2 inches from each side. So I'm at 2 inches. And from this side I'm coming in, I'm at 3.5. It gives me 2 inches, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And then we'll come 5.5 down. Right there. Mark that. And that's what I'm going to be cutting out. So again, 1.5 inches wide, 5.5 inches deep. And what I'll do now is I'll just rotate this board around and mark that on all 4 sides, and then I can start the cutting. Okay, I've got all 4 sides marked out now. What I've done is I've set my circular saw as deep as it'll go, and I'm just going to make a whole bunch of cuts up to that point. Of course, the saw won't go all the way through the 6x6 here, so I'll make all my little cuts, rotate the board, do the same thing, and just do that through all 4 sides. So I'll go ahead and do this one side here. Now there's probably an easier way to do this, a better way. I'm not a carpenter, so I'm just doing it the way I know how to do it, but if you have an easier way, by all means do it, and also let me know. All right, I'm going to rotate this board, continue cutting all sides, and then we'll come back to this. Okay, here's one of the 2x6s. So it fits that way. It's a little tight. I think I will just shave those just a tiny bit, just so it slips in a little easier. Let's try the vertical here. and definitely too tight here. More so on this top side. So I'm going to take the circular saw, I'm going to just shave a tiny bit, probably from every one of these. Just take a tiny bit, take the chisel and take the Sawzall, clean that up a little bit, smooth them out a little bit, and then we'll come back and I'll test fit the 2x6 again. There we go. So for that one, I'll clean it up, it'll be good. So I'll continue to do that on the other 3 sides, and then I'll bring the camera back. Okay, I cleaned up this the top here, and I'm gonna go ahead and take a 2x6, check it out again. See, it's a little snug, but that's good. Like I say, we're not building furniture here. It doesn't have to be perfect. But let me just rotate this instead of putting it in horizontally there. And same thing with this one. Little snug. Now when it's sitting in here, you can see there's a tiny bit, I don't know, 1/4 inch sticking up there. That's okay, really doesn't matter. This is just, you just want to get it close. Once this is built and set up, this is going to be the T-frame, and we'll have a couple screws in here to hold it still. But once all that weight gets on there, little minor differences like this don't hurt anything. So the vertical post is now done. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and the next thing we'll build is the cross piece. This was probably the most difficult part to do. The cross piece will be the second most difficult. Everything else after that is pretty easy. All right. All right, I've repositioned the camera here to be in the shade. Got the sun's going down, so get a little more shade here by the workshop. So what we're doing now is we're going to build the cross piece. And my ruler here. So basically going to have a vertical piece like this. This one's going to sit crossways on top. So what I'm going to do is we want to kind of keep track of what we're doing at this point. So I'm going to label one piece the top, one piece the bottom. So, you know, each one give a vertical orientation. So when they're crossed like this, we're basically going to put a notch in each. This is 5.5 inches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bottom, the part that has the bottom section, I'm going to make that 3 inches, and I'm going to make the top one 2.5. If you think about the stress on that bottom piece, all the stress is on that board, on that 3 inches of wood. The top one has a 2.5 inch piece, but the stress is being distributed across the cut. So the cut is pinching down on the bottom piece, but the bottom piece doesn't have that luxury. It doesn't have anything to pinch down, put that stress on. So I'm gonna make this one a little thicker. And all we have to do, find the center point for each one. So this one's exactly 5 foot, so I'm gonna go 30 inches here. And then I think this one might be a 1/4 inch different, but it really doesn't matter. We're close enough here. 30 1/8. So just visualizing, the top piece is going to have a cut like this, and the bottom piece is going to have a cut like that. And we want to keep track of these for when we do the decorative ends, if you choose to do that, but also because of the thicker cut. So on the top, again, it's going to be 2.5 inches. So let me just make a line at 2.5 inches. And on the bottom, it's going to be 3 inches from the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, which is, again, it's the same thing. You can just go to 2.5 here. All right, let me go ahead and make a vertical mark there. So we have our center line. So it's a 1.5 inches across here, so we're going to go 1.5 inches. We can use either one of these tools here. I'll just use the tape measure. The other way is you can, you got 1.5 inch board, so just put it at the 3/4. It's a little hard to see on this ruler. So actually, I'll go to the 2-inch. And you can use the top line or the bottom. Actually, I got it on the 3. So I'm going to go over 3/4. I'm going to go over 3/4 and mark that. You see I'm really starting to sweat here. It's pretty hot out. Same thing on this one. Just pick a number. I'll pick the 3. Go over 3/4. Go over 3/4. Run our lines. So, actually I did it backwards. This is the bottom, so here we go. So the top part gets cut out. And then this one, the bottom gets cut out. So this is the top piece. It's got 2.5 inches of wood. This is the bottom piece. It's got 3 inches of wood. These are going to be our cuts. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the circular saw, just like I did before. I'm going to cut, make a bunch of little cuts here. I'm actually going to flip this over and do the same measurement. And then I'll flip the board over, make those same cuts. And then do the same process, basically chisel it out, but you'll see it's going to be a whole lot easier with these because they're a lot thinner. So let me go ahead and make some cuts. Okay, I made my initial cuts. Just knocked them with the hammer, they come right out. I'm going to flip the board over, measure out, bring those cuts to that position, and then I'll chisel this out. But nice thing about this is we can go ahead and test. And it fits, but it's a little tighter than I like it to be. So what I'm going to do is just shave that just a tiny bit. Let me reorient this. I got to keep myself oriented at all times or else I'll really mess something up. So I'm just going to shave that just a teeny bit. I'll flip this over, make those additional cuts, chisel it out, make sure that board still works, and then I can work on this board. So you can see this one's a whole lot easier than that 6x6 post. Goes a lot quicker. So let me get that done and we'll continue on then. Okay, I've got my notches done. You see this is the bottom one again. Always watch your orientation. I want to make sure that that bottom one has that thicker piece. Unless you choose to just go half and half, you can do that. But I think this is a little stronger. And went ahead and test fit them. And look at that, perfect. So a little bit of wiggle, but that's okay. Again, we're not building furniture here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put decorative ends on these. That's completely optional. You can leave them as square ends. There's nothing wrong with that. My goal here is to make this whole property look like a park. So I want everything done really nicely, at least to my abilities. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just quickly do a little angle on each of these like that. And this is so when I'm doing the ends, it just reminds me to keep that orientation because the ends are going to be angled out that way. Again, I've done enough projects like this to where I've just cut wood completely backwards. I don't want to do that. So got myself a little reminder, and this whole next few minutes is going to be about the decorative ends. If that's not something that concerns you, you can just jump right up to the part where we put this together and put the braces in between. So let me get set up for that, and then we will start measuring those out and cutting them. Okay, the first thing on the decorative piece that I do is we're going to make an angle cut right here. And what I do is I go at 2.5 inches. And again, this is just something I made up. There's 100 different things you could do. And we're going to go from this corner 2.5 inches over and just make a simple straight cut. So I'm gonna measure this out on all 4 ends. And again, always watch your orientation. And I'll make those cuts and then I'll come back for the next part. Okay, I've got everything cut here. The next part is to do the little semicircle, again, just for decoration. And this is pretty easy. What I'm gonna do is come down here, make a mark at 3 inches. This is 3 inches from the top to that point. And on this one, I'm gonna do 2.5 inches. And again, this is just something I made up. So you can use anything you want. And here's the secret weapon. Just gonna take a paint can, gonna line it up with those 2 marks. Go around it. There we go. Let me go ahead and cut this saber saw. There we go. I think the wood's just a little tough to cut because it is the pressure treat, and I guess it's all a little green. But anyways, that's my decorative end. Simple to do. It only takes about 3 or 4 minutes per board. And I think it just adds a little flair. So I've got all the angles cut. I'm gonna go ahead and cut all these half circles out. At that point, these boards are done. All we gotta do is cut the pieces that go diagonal between them after that, and that's a pretty easy process. So let me get all these cut out, and then we will make the last round of cuts, and then we can put it all together. I've got all the decorative corners or ends cut out for the top. So there it is, assembled. Well, I just stuck it together. It's not nailed or anything yet. But I put it upside down for a reason. You'll see when we get to the next step. So that's ready to go. And the remaining parts to do is to basically cut the boards that go diagonal. Right, so they go between these, and that's what the dragon fruit will actually hang over on. So that'll actually be the kind of the outboard shelf, if you want to call it that, for the dragon fruit to grow over. So those are relatively easy to cut. It's the last thing we have to cut. So let me get everything set up, and we will finish that part up. Okay, I'm ready to make these cross braces. I think at the beginning I said these were going to be 48 inches. They're actually 32 inches. So you could actually buy a 12-foot. Is that right? Yeah, you could buy a 12-foot 2x4 for this. I happen to buy 2 8s. I don't know how the price difference works out, but it's pretty close. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna make cuts like that, right? So it slips into the frame. So we want kind of these angles to be opposite. So I went ahead and set my circular saw at 45 degrees. If you have a miter saw, this is probably a little easier. I do have one, but for the sake of this video, I'm trying to reduce the amount of tools I use. This board kind of has a dirty end. I'm gonna cut that off. I'm not too worried about conserving wood at this point. We want to go 32 inches, point to point. So this is from the longest dimension. Now, this is going to be angled this way. Again, I always double, triple check everything I'm doing. So what I can do is I can use my square, mark a 45 here. It shows me where it ends up on this side. Ready to make this cut. Not the best cut I've ever made, but it'll do. There we go, 32 inch, end to end, angles like that. So now what I can do is just use this piece as a template to make the rest. That way we're sure they're all going to be the same. So I mark that one. I'll keep this one aside as as my template. Mark the top and bottom here. Check, make sure I'm cutting the right way. And I am. I'll slide it over, give it some support. Number 2. So I'm gonna make 2 more of these, and then we will come back and start putting it all together. Okay, we were ready for the actual assembly. This is just my way to do it. It makes it pretty easy, and again, we're not building furniture, so easy's good. So I got this the top frame laid on the ground upside down, and let's square it. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but closer is better. Now I'm going to take one of these boards, set it in here, and I'm just going to measure. So we're at 22 3/4. Well, that's pretty close. Way off by about 1/8 of an inch. So just move it just a hair. So basically just get this first board in here pretty straight. So we're at 22 5/8 and 22 5/8. Okay. Now, just going to set the rest of them in, but I'm going to line this up with this last board. Just eyeball it. Just keep going around like that. Just stand over it. Get it pretty level there. And if everything lines up and you lay this one, it should just fall right in place. So you can go measure every single board, figure out the angles and all that. That's too much work. So I'm going to cheat a little bit now. Just want to get this kind of in place. So I'm going to push this down because I want this board to be flush. And I'm just going to use an air nailer here to get things going. Work my way around. Now push down on each one as I do it. Again, you want these to be flush with the top. This last board lines right up. Good to go. Put a couple extras in. Now these are just 15 gauge nails, they're pretty small. But the goal is just to be able to pick this up. See, there we go. Looks good. Flip it around. Not perfect, but I can do some fine tuning when I get it up on the sawhorses. That's just to get it generally going. I'm going to set it up on the sawhorses now and drive some screws in it and do some final adjustments. So let me get that done and we will finish this up. Okay, we're on the final step. All we have to do is secure this up a little better. I'm using a 2.5-inch deck screw. Just be sure whatever fastener you use is rated for the wood. Of course, it's got to be rated for outdoor. So these are good to use with pressure treated wood. Now, all I'm going to do is just I'm going to put 2 into each of these pieces. Try to keep them a little away from the edge so it doesn't split so much. Back off my clutch a little bit. So I'm just going to go around and do that. Like I said, just 2 per, and 1 down and down. If you like, you can pre-drill holes. Like I said, these, I haven't had any problems. I've had a few splits. My bit's not the best either. So that's it. I'm going to go around and put the rest of the screws in. At that point, this project is ready to be installed. So I know this video was a little long, but I'm going to go ahead and clean up after this, and then probably the next week or so I'll post a video where I actually install this out in the yard. But at this point, the frame is done. You just place it right on top of the vertical post we cut earlier, and you're good to go. When you set it up there, you can drive some screws in it or not. There's so much weight to this, it's not really going to matter. But it's a very strong frame, and I'm real happy with the results so far. Okay, well, thanks for watching.